Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to try a deep dive into the first licensed UFC set to ever release, the famous 2009 Round 1 Topps UFC Hobby Box. And I want to dive into this one. It's the first time I'm doing this, and I'd like to eventually get around to doing every single box that's ever released for the UFC, but you gotta start from somewhere, and this being the first one in the most iconic set in history, I figured this is a great way to start. So let's get started. So like I said, this was the first ever officially licensed UFC trading card set ever released. This is the inaugural Round 1 product, and it has become legendary with collectors and UFC investors over the years. And the reason for that is it has a low print run, it has the first cards of many of MMA's top icons, and it has some pretty scarce and visually appealing inserts. So I'm going to try to do a deep dive into why this set is desirable. We're going to talk about the sealed hobby box specifically, but also talk about the insert odds, the key cards in the set, market prices, production insights, collector lore, and basically how this set ranks overall. So first we're going to start with the insert odds and the box breakdown. So this was released as a hobby only product. The box contains 16 packs with 8 cards per pack. So Topps did a pretty bang up job with these debut boxes. Each box delivered 3 autographs, 3 relic cards, 20 parallel cards, and 8 insert cards. And again, there was no retail release of this product. As far as the autograph cards, there were a total of 50 fighters who signed the cards, and they were tiered by rarity. And the way it worked out was that it was done by commons, short prints, and red inks. And there were also dual autograph fight mat relics, and then ultimate autograph gear relics. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit. So the common autographs were seeded about 1 in every 20 packs. The short print autographs, which included the bigger names like Anderson Silva, Georges St. Pierre, Randy Rampage Jackson, were a lot rarer, almost 6 times rarer, and they were inserted 1 in 118 packs. And there's an even harder tier of autographs to get that include Forrest Griffin and BJ Penn, and they were inserted 1 in every 188 packs. So those were kind of the base level autographs. And then from there were 40 fighters that signed red ink autographs, and each of those red ink autographs were limited to 25 copies. And these are some of the most coveted autographs in UFC history. The red ink is super popular. Next, we have dual autograph fight mat relics. These were 10 special cards featuring 2 fighter autographs and a piece of fight mat from their debut match. These were numbered to 25. Then the next tier of autographs were autograph ultimate gear relics. This was 20 cards pairing the fighter's autograph and a relic of fight-worn gear. And that fight-worn gear can include a glove, shorts, or a shirt, and those are numbered to 25. So that kind of covers the autographs. And eventually we're going to jump on eBay and see if we can find some of these cards and see what they look like. But right now I just want to get into the details and kind of get all the data out there. So we mentioned there were autograph cards, 3 per box, and there's also relic cards, 3 per box. So these relic cards were also broken down in different tiers. So there were fight mat relics, and that subset had 50 fighters of actual canvas mat from their UFC debut fight. And then within this subset, there were gold and red parallel versions. The gold mats were numbered to 88, and the red mats were numbered 1 out of 1, which is amazing. Then the other tier in the relics was ultimate gear relics, which were 20 cards which contained fighter-worn gear, including shorts, shirts, or gloves. And these are also serial numbered, but the print runs are unknown because the print run is not on the card. So it's serial numbered in the sense that it's a blind serial number. There's a limited amount per card, but we don't know how much it is. They are super scarce and extremely hard to find. So that covers the relics. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the parallels in this set as well, which are pretty substantial and pretty interesting. So the base card set is 100 cards. And like I said, you got about 20 parallel cards per box on average. And of those parallels, the most common one, and this is kind of backwards because gold is usually associated with being the rarest or one of the rare inserts, but back then, the gold was the most common. And there was one gold per pack, and the gold border cards were printed on thicker stock. And also in eBay listings, you'll notice because it's listed as thick gold. They're not serial numbered, and they're pretty common at one per pack, as I said. The next tier are the silver parallels. These are very scarce compared to the gold, and these are numbered at a 288, and these are numbered on the back of the card. So these fell roughly 1 in every 4 packs and are substantially rarer than the gold. The next level of the parallel is the rarest parallel. It's the red parallel, which is a 1 of 1, and it contains a red foil logo of the UFC cage on the card. Also, which is kind of interesting piece of history, is that the early sell sheets for this product mentioned a black parallel, which is supposed to be out of 88. But my understanding is that was never released and never got created, and nobody's ever seen one. I know sometimes these things sneak out of the factory, or they're supposed to be destroyed and they don't. Some worker takes it home and saves it, but I don't think any of those have ever been found. So that kind of covers the parallels, but there's also another type of card, which are the insert cards. So the insert cards are 8 per box, and they cover a pretty wide range of different ones. So we'll kind of cover these. So we have victorious debuts, which are 20 cards featuring fighters who won their UFC debut, and these were inserted 4 per box. And this does include the John Jones debut match from 2008 that he won. And I take that back. Looking over my notes, I don't think that John Jones is included in this set. I think I made a mistake on that in my notes, because now that I'm thinking about it, that doesn't make any sense. That I'd have to double check on. There's an insert parallel, like I mentioned, with the gold out of the red out of 101s, and then there's insert parallel gold out of 88. And then at the time, there were redemption cards, which obviously are not valid at this point. If you try to redeem them, I don't think you'd get anything for them. But there are redemption cards for a chance to win tickets to a UFC event, which is kind of interesting. So to kind of give a recap, this product was packed with autographs, relics, parallels, and inserts. And I think that's one of the reasons why this set is so revered in UFC history, is because not only was it the first set, but they did a really great job of putting some cool stuff in there. And this is the listing from toywiz.com. I want to reference this and just kind of bring it up because it's one of the more comprehensive listings for the product and what's on here. So we kind of covered all this here. I just want to show $3,800 for a box. This is Sports Card Radio. This is another breakdown of the set itself and some of the cards in here. And I'm not going to go card by card, but you certainly can pause the video if you'd like to look these up. Here's what the autographs look like. Very clean, simple card, which a lot of the cards today they release with, it's like very confusing. Like the designs are too loud, or there's anime or manga or all this crazy stuff. And there's just a simplicity and beauty to this card. Again, it shows like the redemption cards, the red ink. There's an example of the Ultimate Gear card, red ink. That's such a cool card. There's another one here. Some more parallels. dual auto with the relics there. It's such a sick card. Here's some of the inserts, the top 10 fights of 2008. I'm trying to see if I can read some of these, like Griffin versus Jackson. That's what all these are. Different shots, action shots from there. So that's kind of cool. So it looks like there were 4 cards representing 4 action shots from the fight inserted into here. And you can see the names here, some great ones. Then we had the Victorious debut, which is kind of cool. Yeah, so the John Jones, like I said, and I apologize for that, did not make this set, it looks like. So again, kind of a good review of what this set's about, what's in here. And, you know, this set has like so many iconic cards in here, and just to kind of give a little bit of backstory and some of the history of these cards. So card number 1 is Royce Gracie. Obviously, one of the most legendary UFC fighters in history. And on this card, it's him when he fights Art Jimerson. And this card represents a fight back from UFC's birth in 1993. It's Gracie's rookie card. It's like the cornerstone of any UFC collection. PSA 10s go for over $500, and some of them may be approaching $1,000. They don't come out for sale all that often, but very cool card. Another iconic card is card number 4. Which, let me see if I can pull up an image of here. I cannot. It's not showing. Randy Couture versus Tony, I think it's Halme. So this represents Randy Couture's debut card from his debut fight in 1997. And it's the same with number 5, Chuck Liddell, number 6, Dan Henderson, and number 8, Matt Hughes, just total legends and their first top cards ever. And, you know, these Hall of Famers do carry significant nostalgia and value, and I think that's only going to get better over time. Then we go to card number 17, Georges St. Pierre, one of the greatest fighters in UFC history, arguably the GOAT. PSA 10s of this are over $1,000. And if you can find his autograph, which was short printed, so the autographs are only 1 out of 118 packs, it's a true grail trophy card for the autographs. And just 2 more I want to highlight specifically. Card number 46. Here, the Anderson Silva from his debut in 2006 when he knocked out Chris Leben. And these cards are very cool and very like a cornerstone of any good collection. And one I want to highlight is the card number 81, the Brock Lesnar card. This has tremendous appeal for both UFC collectors and WWE collectors. And it represents his debut at UFC number 81, which is interesting because it's also card number 81, against Frank Mir. And those are some of the ones I just wanted to cover to break down the cards. Like we could literally kind of go card by card and fighter by fighter and do this, but I'm not focusing so much on the individual fighters, more of the overall concept of the set itself. And just to kind of look at some of these gorgeous cards and some really neat stuff. So, you know, every card in this set represents the starting history point of UFC card collecting. And they all tell a very interesting story. And you can literally get lost for hours on Wikipedia pages and YouTube and books that are written about some of these fighters. I just ordered the Georges St. Pierre book, which is his autobiography. So I'm going to read that to learn a little bit more about him. But it's such a cool set. It's the first one ever. And there's not many big-time sports where this set is the first hobby box ever released. It was only in 2009. I think that's really cool and kind of unique about UFC as well, is that you can still capture the history of it, and it wasn't all that long ago. So now to kind of go into the next part, which I want to talk about market value and recent sales of the boxes. So the cheapest price online right now for the 2009 Topps UFC Round 1 hobby box is right here, $3,650. I tried to reach out to them to get it cheaper, to buy them directly. They weren't willing to play ball. I managed to add a couple over the past 6 months, ranging from $3,000 a box to $3,300 a box. But that was scouring Instagram, messaging people on Facebook, trying to negotiate off of eBay. So it does take work to do that. I don't know how many of these boxes are left. It's hard to say. The one thing I wanted to look up, which I should have pulled up earlier, is this one, the 101 tracker. So we'll get to this in a second. I'll look that up. Basically, if you can see the percentage of 101s that have been pulled from the set, it's probably a pretty accurate gauge of how many boxes have been opened, and then you can extrapolate the percentage of it. But yeah, so, and that goes into this blowout carts post I wanted to talk about. So this post was done a little over 4 years ago. It talks about kind of the beginning history of UFC, and there's some interesting points I want to cover. So the set was actually released February 25th, 2009. Hobby boxes sold between $90 and $120. We mentioned all this other information that's here about the base cards and the parallels, but this is what I want to touch upon. The print run is estimated to be 6,000 total boxes, which is nothing. 500 cases, so 12 boxes per case. I've seen other estimates of 7,000 boxes, and if you know what a lot of analytical kind of math people do is they take the odd sheet that are put out by these car companies, then they look at the number of inserts and parallels and how many are per pack, and they can reverse engineer the number. I've seen as high as 7. This one says 6,000. I don't know where he got that number from. He probably ran the numbers backwards as well. But you know, the other thing you have to take into account when trying to determine these boxes, it's an inexact science, because sometimes the companies, even though they say they produced, like here, they say they produced 288 silvers of every card, like sometimes only 250 make it in, or they forget to put in fighters, or there's a mistake or a licensing issue. So these things are just random guesses, but I think as time goes by and we're able to analyze data smarter and better, and also car companies put out better data than they did, 16 years ago for this. I think we're getting better at this, and I'm pretty confident the total number of boxes released was between 6,000 and 7,000, which I said is not much at all. And the market for this, what these products sell for. So I tried to figure out how to extract this into a plot chart, and I was going to do a graph. And there's 59 entries, and I certainly could have done it manually. And I tried to do screenshots and put it in the ChatGPT and figure out how to do it. It's not built in the card ladder, unfortunately, but I'm going to the very beginning. So if you look here, 2009, $91, $120, $120. So that kind of goes to what the blowout forum post said here for the release pricing. Price kind of held the same for a while. It started to inch up a little bit in the middle of 2009. In later 2009, it looks like it went up to $300 a box. And then it looks like the round twos are mixed in here, so those were cheap, so those released then. And the round twos are kind of caught in here, so maybe I should, I wonder if I can minus round two, if that would help. Nah, it doesn't help. We have to do kind of a manual filter. So to go back, you have to take out the round twos because that screws up the data. But then in 2010, so about a year after release, you're at $400. So the product did very well. It was in demand. It doubled in price, or more than doubled the price. So 400, and we go to 2011, it's at 800. Hovers at 6 or 5 into 2013. 400 in 2020. So like there's a gap here from like 14 to 2020 of basically no sales. I don't know what that's about. We come back to 2020, late 2020, we're at 700 a box. And then boom, into COVID, 2,000 a box, 3,300 a box, 4,000 a box, 3,100 a box. Down to 19. So again, the market softens a little bit, 23. The heritage auctions, I wouldn't count. These I don't count. Heritage auctions is not the place to sell UFC sealed wax, or in my opinion, sealed wax at all. It's vintage baseball. These prices I would throw out, in my opinion. 3,000 is the true price. If you can get a box of this for $3,000, you're doing well. And I don't think there's any available on the market at that price right now. Where this price can lead in the future, can this be a $10,000 box one day? I think so. I think it's going to take a lot of things to go right, but out of all the things that need to go right, more fans watching UFC, more interesting fighter stories to get people to stay in, to learn more about the history. So you need the interest of the newer fighters and the spark. And then that spark leads people down the path to learn about the history of it. And then you want to be connected and experience the nostalgia, and you can watch these fights on YouTube, which is amazing. So you can literally see the entire history of UFC online and by video, which is unique to this sport as well, because you can't do that with most sports. So I think that's kind of unique. But the spark of the newer fighters and how the UFC take care of its product now is going to determine, but the biggest thing is patience and time. But do I think this could be a $10,000 box one day? Yes. When? I do not know. That is a good question. So we touched on the boxes a little bit. And, you know, it's trying to compare this to anything else is kind of weird because modern boxes of other products are more expensive than this already for product from 2025, 2026. UFC doesn't really have boxes that come out that are, you know, $1,000 boxes. Royalty was a higher tier product, but even that's kind of softened right now a little bit. And you could pick up boxes of that if you're lucky for $800, but those were over $1,000 upon release. But the type of person that would buy sealed UFC, I don't think it's the same type of person that buys modern UFC. Just like people that buy vintage baseball boxes are not the same type of collectors that are going on the whatnot and cracking, you know, modern 2025, 26 Topps Chrome basketball when it releases tonight or tomorrow night. So like to try to figure out the type of person that would buy this. Is it somebody that's newer in the hobby and they want to experience nostalgia? Do they feel like that $3,000 for a vintage product is cheap? Is it people that want to get a little bit of everything, so they want vintage from every sport, football, hockey, baseball, basketball, and they want to add UFC to their portfolio? I think it could touch on a little bit of everything. And again, like the print run number is so low that how many of these boxes could be left? Like how many, like, and even a sealed case of this, does a sealed case of this exist? I'm sure it does somewhere. It's got to be buried in somebody's collection. But I don't know where. And I don't think I've ever seen one, at least not recently. So yeah, that was kind of cool. So kind of to hit on what is currently on eBay now for round one. So round two is going to be mixed in, unfortunately. I'll try to filter out. So you have the Joe Rogan PSA 10, his debut. Again, these are all buy now prices. I'm not focusing on the prices. I'm focusing on the cards itself and just the beauty of the cards and why they're cool. So here is a 1/1 red parallel. Take a look at that. How cool is that card? 1/1 stamp on the back. That is so sick. St. Pierre versus Fitch. Can't even imagine if you put the card at auction what it would get. It's a cool card. Let's look at this here. So this is the, 2009 Topps Round 1 complete master auto set out of 88, out of 288, gold, silver, matte relic. So what are we looking at here? So we have all these autos. Wow. All the autos in the set. You have these inserts. You have the relics, and those are numbered out of 88. You have these top fight ones. Wow. But here we go. 37 blue ink, 99 base set, 99 gold thick set, 99 silver set. And if I'm not mistaken, I have to double check on this. I think the reason why it's 99 is, I might be wrong on this, but I thought one of the cards was a short print or it wasn't included. I think the Rich Huerta autograph maybe was never produced. I remember reading about that. And then the Rich Franklin autograph was substituted for the Huerta. But it's interesting, it's out of 99. So we go through here, we see some other ones. We have the sealed promo pack with GSP. Pretty cool item. See what else eBay has to offer, just to kind of look at the history of the cards. Oh, that's cool. 2009 Topps UFC Round 1, Georges St. Pierre, the Relic, authentic fighter worn gear with the red auto. Man, I would love that in my collection. Very cool card. UFC Round 1, red ink Anderson Silva with the spider on there. Silva versus Leben. The red inks, I believe I said were out of 25. Wow, look at that card. Silva versus Leben again, dual auto with the authentic debut matte relic. I don't know, these cards are just stunning. Just looking at these cards, I'm just blown away how cool they are. Let's see what else we got here. So we got here a round 1 and a round 2 box for 7,100 American. So general rule of thumb, the round 1s are about 3,000. The round 2s, I would say 1,500. You can get as low as 1,200 if you're lucky. The best thing to do is wait for these to come up for auction on eBay. The only issue is you're going to be competing against me. So, you know, may the highest bid win. But yeah, these round 1 and round 2s, whenever they pop up, I try to buy them no matter what. There's some more autographs here. Again, the John Jones is the round 2, so that's not included in round 1, but it's picking up in the search. Here's another one. That one's cool. Topps UFC Round 1, Georges St. Pierre. Authentic white fight worn gear with the autograph. And on the back it's numbered out of 25. Man, I love the offer on that card. I wonder what it would go for. Again, wow, look at this. Round 1 complete master set in box, 20 autos with empty packs in the box. So the empty box, bunch of autos. That's a piece of history right there. How cool is that? Round 2 is the Brock Lesnar. We'll cover round 2 in another video. These John Jones autos certainly aren't rare, but again, that's not this product. Here's the toywiz.com box. So on their website, you can get a little bit cheaper. How much was it on their website? It was $37.99. Here's $38.64. If you reach out to them directly, they'll usually go a little bit lower. They'll work with you. Toywiz is pretty good. Let's see what else. A BJ Penn round 1 auto out of 25. That's cool with the Prodigy inscription. Such a sick card. Check auctions real quick. Any auctions to look at? It's interesting. So the Joe Rogan PSA 9. The round 1 victorious debut, Nate Diaz. Wow, that's a sick one. At an 88. I'm adding that to my watch list. I may make a bid for that. Yeah, the Matt Serra auto. Rich Franklin out of 440. So this was the one that was substituted for the Roger Huerta that we talked about. That's the first time I've actually seen this auto. I'm going to add that. Let's see what else. Anderson Silva's there. Dana White. Kind of cool. Like every cultural icon in UFC is part of this set. And like you could build this set if you're just trying to get some of the cheaper fighters and some of the higher number things. Like you don't have to break the bank. Like you can collect this set and have like some amazing, gorgeous cars for relatively cheap. And just have fun building it and trying to collect it, whatever you're interested in. So that kind of touches on that. So the other thing I want to do is pull up the one-on-one tracker. I don't know if the one-on-one tracker is going to pick this up. Again, I apologize for the darkness, but I don't think I could turn on. Oh, there we go. It's a little bit lighter. So let me see if I can find, wow, it only goes back to 2004. So that was a fail. Let me just double check. Yeah, it doesn't do as far back as 2009. So at least we tried. So let me go back. There we go. Get the light back on. So, put this in perspective to give a little bit of a recap. So we talked about the print run of the boxes being, as high as 7,000, as low as 6,000. This print run is like 5 to 10 times less than modern print runs, whether it's modern Topps or Panini products when they released. So the scarcity is there, but scarcity doesn't matter unless there's demand, and demand is huge for this product. Another issue with buying sealed boxes is what we call bricking. So when you store the type of boxes that have the glossy finish on these type of cards, which they do, if there's issues with humidity or storage, they can brick. So if you were to open a 2009 box in 2025, which I wouldn't recommend because the value of the box is in it being sealed, the chances of some of these cards being stuck together and being degradation of the condition of the cards is probably high. And sometimes when the cards stick together, you try to peel them apart. Sometimes they're fine and there's no issues. Other times there's transference of the stickiness of the residue of the gloss, and sometimes it just totally rips the paper off. So again, if you're buying this, I would not buy it to crack open unless you can verify it came from a climate controlled source and you're confident there won't be any issues. But overall, what we do on this channel, what I try to do is buy the sealed for the sealed and keep it that way. So again, just to give like a brief finalization, kind of wind this video down a little bit. This is the Grail UFC product. And interestingly enough, from what I read online, was when it first released, it was semi-popular in the UFC community, but the UFC community was so small, it was not an instant sellout. There were some reports online and on Reddit and other Facebook groups that I read that some of these boxes actually hit clearance of as cheap as $80. Which is kind of wild to think about, that A, boxes were as cheap as $80, and B, that a product like this would be on clearance. But times have certainly changed, and what collecting looks like has changed, and the type of people and how much money is coming into this is a totally different world. In the world of UFC, this is considered the 1986 Fleer basketball of UFC. So if you don't know, 86 Fleer basketball is the Michael Jordan rookie, what is known as his main rookie product. You can argue it's 1984 Star, which is another licensed Jordan product, but the 86 Fleer is the most iconic Jordan rookie and the most mainstream Jordan rookie. And that box sets the standard for sealed wax across the hobby. And the UFC Round 1 does that for the sport of UFC. And I can't express how iconic and how important this set is. And I think the bullish case for this moving forward has everything pointing in the right direction. And from the simplicity of design of the base cards, I mean, just looking at the Rogan here, it almost reminds me of the current Stadium Club cards where it's a full bleed photo with minimal things on the front of the card. But the relics and the inserts are very well designed and beautiful, and the autograph cards are beautiful. It's just even the relic cards, which have a little more going on, are visually stunning and amazing. And this is the set. This is the Grail. This is what everybody should have. And if you're collecting steel box for UFC, I understand it's expensive, like $3,000 to spend on a box of cardboard is not cheap. But I would argue that if you're buying modern products of UFC, I would hold off and save up your money and add this to your collection. This would be a cornerstone of something you can be proud of down the road. So that's going to wrap up today's video. Hopefully you learned a little something. If you can please like and comment on the video, I would appreciate it. It really helps out the algorithm. Please subscribe to the channel, get daily UFC updates. This is the first time I did a super deep dive like this. In the future, I think I may add a PowerPoint to it to kind of sum up some of the information. But let me know if you like the format of this. I kind of jumped around a little bit. Trying to share the information with you to trying to figure out a better way to do it maybe. We can tweak this and try to make it maybe a little more efficient moving forward. But it was fun to make the video, and I really enjoyed it. And with all that said, Have a great evening. Stay safe, be healthy, and I'll talk to you again soon.